In just 3.5 days of fighting in and around the Persian Gulf, US forces wiped out a big chunk of Iran's navy. Donald Trump now boasts that 46 Iranian ships were sent to the bottom, calling them top-of-the-line vessels, and saying the Navy knocked out 46 as part of Operation Epic Fury. Between the missiles, torpedoes, drones, aircraft, and carrier strike groups needed to do that, the price tag easily climbs past $1 billion. That scale naturally raises a blunt question. If these ships were so valuable, why did the US destroy them instead of capturing and reusing them? Trump says he asked the military the same thing. Why didn't we just capture the ships? We could use it. Why did we sink them? According to him, a senior officer answered with a dark joke. It's more fun to sink them. And then, more seriously, said it was safer. Behind that offhand remark is a bigger logic. Sinking those ships wasn't just a trigger-happy choice. It fits into a strategy built around protecting US forces, keeping key sea lanes open, stabilizing energy flows, and sending a warning to Iran and to rivals like China. The ships were targets, but they were also part of a message. Start with the battlefield reality. Capturing ships is much harder and more dangerous than it sounds. Historically, navies did seize enemy vessels and crews. In old-style sea battles, that made sense. Today's naval fights, especially in a tight and hostile environment like the Persian Gulf, look very different. Iran's most aggressive naval arm is not a fleet of big blue water warships. It's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, which has spent years building swarms of small, fast attack craft. These boats are cheap and quick, and they often carry rockets, short-range anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, or naval mines. The idea is to swarm larger ships, attack from several directions at once, then disappear into shallow coastal waters and busy shipping lanes, where they are hard to track and harder to pursue. Boarding a vessel in that context is no small thing. To capture a boat, you have to close in, slow down, and put boarding teams onto a platform that may be rigged with explosives or defended at close range. A small craft loaded with explosives is deadly, whether you're trying to sink it or stand on its deck. One miscalculation, and you lose an entire team or take serious damage to a much more expensive US warship. From the point of view of a US commander in contact, the safer option is obvious. US doctrine puts force protection first. If a boat is part of an active hostile swarm or is believed to be carrying weapons, the priority is to neutralize it quickly from a distance. Missiles, naval guns, and armed drones allow that without exposing sailors to small arms fire, suicide tactics, or improvised explosives at point-blank range. On a map in a calm briefing room, capture sounds possible. Under fire, it's usually a bad bet. The geography of the fight makes everything worse. The Persian Gulf is not a wide, empty ocean. It is narrow, crowded, and full of overlapping threats. Commercial tankers, fishing boats, patrol craft, and warships all operate in the same confined waters. To the north and along the coast, Iran has spent decades building coastal missile batteries, radar sites, drone bases, and IRGC launch points designed to exploit that geography. Fast attack boats fit perfectly into this environment. They can dart out from hidden coves or small harbors, strike, then race back under the cover of coastlines and islands. Any attempt to slow down and conduct boarding operations in that sort of kill zone would give Iran's shore-based weapons and nearby boats a window to attack. A boarding team focused on securing one hull is far more vulnerable than a ship maneuvering fast and firing at range. In the middle of a live swarm attack, US commanders are going to choose standoff fire nearly every time. Then there is the money question. A single modern anti-ship missile can cost anywhere from $1 million to $4 million, depending on the system. And the interceptors used against drones and missiles can be similarly expensive. In this campaign, US and partner forces have reportedly fired more than 2,000 munitions at nearly 2,000 targets across Iran, from naval bases to ballistic missile launchers, drones, and air defenses. Outside estimates say the US is now spending around $1 billion a day on the wider Iran war effort. On paper, burning multi-million-dollar missiles to destroy relatively cheap Iranian boats looks like overkill. But that is not how the Pentagon does the math. The United States has an annual defense budget of more than $800 billion. In that context, spending hundreds of millions to stop a regional navy from threatening the world's most important energy corridor is considered acceptable risk, and arguably a bargain compared with what could happen if things go wrong. That corridor is the Strait of Hormuz. In 2024, about 20 million barrels of oil a day flowed through it, roughly 1/5 of total global oil consumption and more than 1/4 of seaborne oil trade. By 2025, those flows still represented around 1/3 of global crude trade, with nearly 15 million barrels per day moving through the strait, plus almost 20% of global liquefied natural gas shipments. Asia is heavily dependent on that route. China alone takes roughly 37.7% of the oil that transits Hormuz, with India, South Korea, and Japan also heavily exposed. If Iran can credibly threaten that choke point with swarms of fast boats, anti-ship missiles, and drones, the entire global economy feels it. A closure of Hormuz, or even a serious disruption of tanker traffic, would be enough to send oil prices sharply higher, push up fuel and shipping costs, and feed directly into inflation and supply chain chaos worldwide. Against that backdrop, using very expensive weapons to make sure those threats are eliminated quickly is not a luxury. It's a form of insurance for the global economy. There's also the way Iran's naval power is structured. Tehran doesn't rely on a handful of massive capital ships. It relies on numbers. Its asymmetric naval strategy is built around having lots of fast attack craft, small missile boats, and support vessels that together can harass and overwhelm a larger navy. As long as those boats exist in large enough numbers, they can complicate US and allied operations and keep commercial shipping on edge. Destroying 46 vessels in a matter of days is one way to break that swarm. Military analysts call this attrition. You remove as many of your opponent's low-cost, high-annoyance assets as you can, as fast as you can. Building those boats may be cheaper than building US destroyers, but they still take time, steel, weapons, and training. When Trump says their navy is gone, it's all lying at the bottom of the ocean, he's exaggerating, but he is pointing at a real effect. Iran has lost a meaningful share of the platforms it spent years putting together. If that kind of probing meets only limited responses, Iran can be tempted to keep pushing. If it meets overwhelming fire, dozens of ships sunk, missile launch sites flattened, air defenses shredded, that changes the calculation. Deterrence is ultimately about making the cost of aggression look impossibly high. The rapid destruction of a large slice of Iran's navy is meant to make that cost obvious.